The human exploration vessel Horizon's Edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of an unknown star system. The ship had been traveling for 3 months, mapping distant regions of space that no human had ever seen before. Captain Daniel Cruz stood on the bridge with his hands behind his back. Watching the main view screen flicker as the sensors adjusted to their new location. "Sir, we have a problem," said Lieutenant Amy Grant from her position at the sensor console. Her voice was calm, but her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "I am picking up 17 ship signatures. They are all moving toward us." Daniel felt his stomach tighten, but kept his face neutral. His crew needed to see him steady. "What kind of ships?" "Unknown design. Nothing in our database matches them." Amy paused and looked up at him with wide eyes. "Sir, they are not human." The view screen came into focus, and Daniel saw something that made his breath catch in his throat. Ships of every shape and size surrounded them. Some were made of crystal that glowed with inner light. Others seemed to be made of pure energy held together by invisible forces. A few looked organic, like living creatures swimming through space. They were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Commander Lisa Porter moved to stand beside Daniel. She was his first officer and his closest friend on the ship. They had served together for 12 years. "Orders, Captain?" Before Daniel could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A voice came through, translated into English by their computer, but still sounding strange and mechanical. "Unknown vessel. This is the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet. You have entered protected space without authorization. Power down your weapons immediately. You will be escorted to the Judgment Station for evaluation. Any resistance will result in your destruction." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances. Daniel could feel the fear in the room like a physical weight. He took a deep breath and made his decision. "Do as they say," he ordered. "Power down weapons. But keep our secondary systems ready." Quietly, Lisa nodded and began giving orders to the crew. The Horizon's Edge went dark as its weapon systems shut down. The alien fleet closed in around them like a fist. The journey to the Judgment Station took 4 hours. During that time, Daniel tried to contact Earth to report what was happening, but something was blocking their long-range communications. They were alone. When the station finally came into view, Daniel heard someone on the bridge whisper a prayer. He understood why. The structure was enormous, bigger than Earth's moon. It was made of materials that seemed to change color and shape as they watched. Thousands of ships surrounded it, representing species that humanity had never imagined could exist. It was the most incredible and frightening thing Daniel had ever seen. The Horizon's Edge was guided into a docking bay that adjusted itself to fit their ship perfectly. When the airlock opened, a group of alien beings was waiting for them. Some were tall and thin with too many limbs. Others floated in the air without any visible means of support. One was simply a cloud of glowing particles that moved as a single unit. "The captain and diplomatic team will come with us," said the lead alien. A creature that looked like a giant insect with wings made of light. "The rest of your crew will remain on your vessel." Daniel selected Lisa and 4 others to accompany him. As they walked through the station, they passed windows that looked out into space. Daniel could see ships from hundreds of different species. He could see structures that defied the laws of physics as humans understood them. He felt very small and very alone. The chamber where the Galaxy Council met was massive. Thousands of aliens filled the seats that rose up on all sides like a stadium. At the center was a raised platform where Daniel and his team were told to stand. Facing them was a being made entirely of light and geometric shapes. It introduced itself as Ambassador Vikthal. "You are humans," Vikthal said. Its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "We have been watching your species for 300 of your years. You were not supposed to make contact with the galactic community for another 1,000 years. Your arrival here is unexpected and concerning." Daniel straightened his spine and tried to project confidence he did not feel. "May I ask why you were watching us? And why we were not supposed to meet you yet?" The chamber went quiet. Vikthal's S-form flickered, which Daniel would later learn was a sign of strong emotion.
It's your species is dangerous, Victor replied.
We have studied your history. It is written in blood and suffering. Your technological progress has been driven by war and conflict. Every other species in this chamber advanced through cooperation and peace. You advance by fighting and killing each other. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Daniel could not understand most of them, but he could hear the fear and disgust in the alien voices. He felt Lisa's hand brush against his arm in warning, but he stepped forward anyway. Our history is not perfect, Daniel admitted. We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other in ways that still haunt us. But that is not all we are, is it not? The question came from a different alien, one that looked like a living statue made of moving stone. Your species created weapons that could destroy entire planets before you even learned to live peacefully on one world. You have gone to war over land, over resources, over ideas, over differences in the color of your skin. You are a species of predators who turned your hunting instincts on yourselves. Daniel wanted to argue, but he could not deny the truth in those words. Human history was filled with horror. Wars, genocides, cruelty beyond imagination. He had studied it all in school. He knew what his species was capable of. The council must now decide what to do with you, Victho announced. We have two options. The first is permanent quarantine. Your species will be confined to your home system. You will never be allowed to travel beyond it. Any attempt to leave will be met with force. The chamber rumbled with what might have been approval. The second option is provisional membership in the galactic community, but with strict limitations. Your expansion will be controlled. Your technology will be monitored. You will not be allowed to develop new weapons. You will be watched for the rest of your existence. Daniel felt cold. Both options sounded like prison sentences. He looked at Lisa and saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. Humanity had reached for the stars only to find a cage waiting for them. You have 30 of your days to accept one of these options, Victhul concluded. If you refuse both, we will implement the quarantine by force. This session is ended. As Daniel and his team were escorted back to their ship, he felt the weight of an entire species resting on his shoulders. 30 days to decide the fate of humanity. 30 days to convince beings who had watched them for 3 centuries that humans deserved a chance. He did not know if it was possible, but he knew he had to try. The detailed terms of humanity's membership arrived on the second day. Catherine Bell read through them 3 times before she believed what she was seeing. She was the lead diplomat from Earth, a woman of 62 years with silver hair and sharp eyes. She had negotiated peace treaties between nations that had been at war for generations. She had talked terrorists into releasing hostages. She had spent her entire life finding common ground between people who hated each other, but she had never faced anything like this. They want to take everything, she said quietly. Captain Daniel Cruz sat across from her in his ready room. The document glowed on the screen between them. Our ships, our weapons, our freedom to explore. They want to put us in a box and throw away the key. The terms were clear and brutal. Human ships would only be allowed to travel at speeds slower than light. The 4-star systems closest to Earth would be their permanent home. They could never go beyond those borders. All military vessels would be destroyed. All weapons would be surrendered. Council observers would live on every human world to make sure the rules were followed. This is not membership, Catherine continued. This is imprisonment. Okay. Daniel nodded slowly. He had spent the night reading the same document and reaching the same conclusion. Have you found anything we can negotiate? Nothing. The council does not see this as a negotiation. They see it as a sentence. Catherine stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the alien station floated in space like a monument to everything humanity could never be. They have already decided what we are. They are just going through the motions. A meeting was scheduled for the following day. Catherine and Daniel went together, accompanied by Lisa Porter and a small team of advisors. The council chamber was just as overwhelming the second time. Thousands of alien eyes watched them as they took their place on the central platform. Ambassador Victhul spoke first. You have reviewed our terms. Do you have questions? Catherine stepped forward. She had prepared for this moment her entire life without knowing it. I have many questions, Ambassador. But I will start with the most important one. Why do you believe these terms are fair? The chamber went quiet. Veichthal's form flickered with what might have been surprise. Fair? We are not concerned with fairness. We are concerned with safety. Your species is a threat to every other species in this galaxy. These terms are designed to contain that threat. We have never attacked anyone outside our own world, Catherine pointed. Out. We have never even met another species before now. How can we be a threat to beings we did not know existed? Because we have seen what you do to each other. The response came from the Velkari representative, the tall, insect-like being with glowing wings. We have monitored your communications, your broadcasts, your records. We know about your world wars. We know about your genocides. We know about the weapons you have built and the destruction you have caused. A species that treats its own members with such cruelty will certainly treat others worse. Catherine felt the weight of those words. She could not deny them. Human history was filled with horrors that made her soul ache when she thought about them. But she also knew that history was not the whole story. You are right, she said. We have done terrible things. We have killed millions of our own people for reasons that seem insane even to us now. We have built weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We have been cruel and violent and foolish. She paused and looked around the chamber. But we have also been brave. We have been kind. We have loved each other and sacrificed for each other and built beautiful things together. You cannot judge us only by our worst moments. The Drexian, the being of living stone, made a sound like grinding rocks. Your worst moments define your capabilities. A species that can commit genocide is capable of committing genocide. It does not matter how many good moments you have in between. Then why have any contact with us at all? Daniel spoke up. If we are so dangerous, why not just destroy us and be done with it? The chamber fell silent. Veichthal's form flickered rapidly. Because that would make us no better than you, the ambassador finally replied. We do not destroy species. We contain them. We protect the galaxy from them while allowing them to continue existing. It is the civilized approach. Daniel wanted to laugh at the word civilized. Being locked in a cage for eternity did not feel civilized to him, but he kept his face neutral. Catherine had warned him not to show anger. It would only confirm what the Council already believed about humans. Our last major conflict ended 47 years ago, Catherine said. In that time, we have built a united government for our entire species. We have created laws to prevent the horrors of our past from being repeated. We have changed. 47 years is nothing, said Veichthal. Some species in this chamber remember events from 10,000 years ago as if they happened yesterday. By our standards, your last war ended moments ago. The blood is still fresh. Catherine felt despair creeping into her heart. Every argument she made was being turned against her. Every example of human progress was being dismissed as temporary. The Council had already made up their minds. They were just waiting for humans to accept their fate. What would it take to change your opinion? She asked. What would we need to do to prove that we deserve freedom? Veichthal was silent for a long moment. When the ambassador finally spoke, the words felt like a door slamming shut.
Nothing.
There is nothing you can do. Your nature is fixed. Your history is written. You are what you are, and what you are is dangerous. The terms are the terms. Accept them or face quarantine. Catherine and Daniel walked back to the horizon's edge in silence. There was nothing to say. They had come looking for hope and found only walls that night. Catherine sat alone in her quarters and allowed herself to cry. She cried for humanity and all its flaws. She cried for the future they were being denied. She cried because she did not know what to do next. But when the tears dried, she felt something else growing in her chest. It was small at first, just a spark. But it grew stronger as the night went on. Determination. The Council had given up on humanity. But Catherine Bell was not ready to give up on her own species. Not yet. Not ever. She just needed to find a way to make them see. What she saw? She just needed to show them who humans really were. The message from Captain Daniel Cruz reached Earth's 12 hours after the Council session ended. By the following morning, every human in the solar system and beyond knew what had happened. The alien galaxy had judged humanity and found them guilty of being human. The council observers watched closely. They expected panic. They expected riots in the streets and violence in the capitals. They expected humans to react the way humans always reacted to bad news, with fear, with anger, with destruction, but that is not what happened. In Beijing, an old woman named Lin Mei watched the broadcast on her small television while drinking tea. When it was over, she turned off the screen and walked outside to her garden. Her granddaughter found her there an hour later, pulling weeds from around her tomato plants. "Grandmother, did you see the news?" the young girl asked. "The aliens think we are monsters." Lin Mei smiled and wiped dirt from her hands. "They do not know us, little one. They have watched us from far away, but they have never lived among us. Let them watch a little longer. They will learn." In Chicago, a construction worker named Eddie Flores finished his shift at the same time he always did. He drove home through traffic that was calmer than usual. People seemed thoughtful rather than afraid. At his daughter's school, he watched her perform in a play about a princess who saved her kingdom through kindness instead of war. He clapped loudly and did not think about aliens at all. Whatever happens, he told his wife Maria that night, we are not going to hide who we are. We are not going to pretend to be something different. They want to see humans? Let them see humans. Maria nodded and squeezed his hand. Do you think they will change their minds about us? I do not know. But I know that we are not going to change who we are just because someone is watching. In Lagos, a doctor named Chidi Okonkwo continued treating patients at his small clinic. The waiting room was full, as it always was. People came to him with broken bones and fevers and worries that had nothing to do with alien councils. He treated them all with the same care and patience. Are you not worried about what the aliens said? His nurse asked him between patients. Chidi shrugged. I have been worried about many things in my life. War, disease, poverty, corruption. I worried about all of them, and I kept working anyway. This is no different. The aliens can judge us all they want. I have people to help. Something strange began to happen in the days that followed. People started sharing stories with each other. Not stories of war or violence, but stories of kindness. Stories of sacrifice. Stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things for no reason other than it was the right thing to do. A teacher in Mumbai shared the story of how her students had raised money to build a school in a village that had been destroyed by floods. A firefighter in Moscow shared the story of how his team had worked for 3 days without sleep to rescue people trapped in a collapsed building. A grandmother in Tokyo shared the story of how strangers had helped her find her way home when she got lost in the city. The stories spread through the networks like wildfire. Every human world contributed. Every colony, every station, every ship, millions of stories, all saying the same thing. This is who we are. Not perfect. Not without flaws. But trying. Always trying. On the judgment station, the council observers monitored the transmissions with growing confusion. They had expected fear and anger. They had expected violence. They did not understand what they were seeing instead. They are not preparing for war, reported observer Kelex, a being of pure thought contained in a mechanical body. They are not trying to escape. They are not even arguing with each other. They are simply ... existing. Existing how? Demanded Ambassador Vichthel. Together. Despite everything we have said about them, despite everything they know about themselves, they are staying together. Captain Daniel Cruz received new orders from Earth on the 15th day. He read them 3 times before believing what he was seeing. Then he called his senior officers to the briefing room. Earth wants us to open the ship, he announced. Complete access. Every system, every database, every personal log. They want us to invite council observers on board and show them everything. Commander Lisa Porter stared at him. Everything. They will see our weapon systems, our defensive capabilities, our strategic vulnerabilities. They will know exactly how to destroy us if they decide to. Daniel agreed. That is exactly what they will see. This is insane, said Chief Engineer Tom Bradley. This is like showing a wolf the inside of the sheep pen. Maybe, Daniel admitted. Or maybe it is like showing a neighbor the inside of your home. Maybe it is about trust. He looked around the room at the faces of his crew. They were afraid. He was afraid too. But he also understood what Earth was trying to do. The Council had judged humanity based on their history. They had seen the worst of what humans could do. Now Earth was offering to show them everything else. "I am not going to order anyone to participate," Daniel said. "This is voluntary. But I want you to understand what we are being asked to do. We are being asked to be vulnerable. We are being asked to trust beings who do not trust us. We are being asked to believe that if they truly see who we are, they will see something worth saving." The room was silent for a long moment. Then Lisa Porter stood up. "I will do it," she said. "I will let them read every personal log I've ever written, every message to my family, every stupid joke I have ever made. Let them see who Lisa Porter really is." One by one, the other officers stood up. Tom Bradley, Security Chief Angela Davis, Medical Officer Patricia Lane, Navigation Officer Carlos Ramirez. All of them agreeing to open their lives to alien scrutiny. Daniel felt something warm spread through his chest. Pride, hope, love for the people he served with. "And let us show them," he said. "Let us show them who we really are." The invitation was sent to the Council that afternoon. Ambassador Vichthel accepted with obvious suspicion. Observers were assigned to live aboard the Horizon's Edge for the remaining 15 days, and so the experiment began. Humans being human while aliens watched. The most important performance in the history of the species, except it was not a performance at all. It was just life, and that made all the difference. The Council. Observers arrived on the Horizon's Edge expecting to find evidence of human savagery hidden beneath a thin layer of civilization. They expected to discover secret weapons and violent rituals and all the things they had seen in human history broadcasts. What they found instead confused them completely. Observer Kelex was assigned to follow Captain Daniel Cruz. Throughout his daily routine, the mechanical being watched as Daniel woke up, exercised in the ship gym, ate breakfast with his crew, and began his shift on the bridge. There was nothing remarkable about any of it. Nothing violent. Nothing threatening. Just a man doing his job. "Why do you exercise in the morning?" Kelex asked one day. "It seems inefficient. You waste energy before your work begins." Daniel smiled. "It helps me think clearly. It keeps my body healthy so my mind can be sharp. And honestly, I enjoy it. There is something satisfying about pushing yourself. Pushing yourself toward what? Toward being better than I was yesterday." Kelex did not understand this answer, but the observer recorded it anyway. Another observer, a Valkyrie named Sylvan, was assigned to the ship's kitchen. The cook was a woman named Rosa Martinez, who had left her home in Mexico City to see the stars. Sylvan watched her prepare meals for the crew with a fascination that surprised the observer's own scientific mind. "You spend hours preparing food," Sylvan noted. "Your species has efficient nutritional supplements. Why not use those instead?" Rosa laughed and stirred a pot of soup that smelled of tomatoes and spices. "Because food is more than nutrition. Food is comfort. Food is memory. When I make my grandmother's soup, I am not just feeding bodies. I am feeding souls. I do not understand." "You will," Rosa promised. "Stay and eat with us tonight. You will understand." Sylvan stayed. And something changed in the observer that night. Though Sylvan could not explain what it was, in engineering, Observer Vexelah followed Chief Engineer Tom Bradley as he worked on the ship's faster-than-light drive. Tom had designed significant improvements to the engine during his career, making human ships faster and more efficient than they had ever been before. "You created these improvements while recovering from a serious illness," Vexelah noted. "Our records show you were near death for several months." Tom nodded without looking up from his work. "Cancer caught it late. Almost killed me. Yet you continued working even when you were dying. Especially when I was dying." Tom finally looked at the observer. His eyes were tired but kind. "When you know your time is short, you want to make sure the time you have left matters. I could not fight anymore. I could not run. But I could think. I could create. I could leave something behind that would help others long after I was gone. Oh, this is difficult to understand. Most species facing death focus on preservation, not creation. Tom smiled sadly. Humans are strange that way. We know we are going to die. We have always known. So we spend our lives trying to build things that will outlast us. Children, ideas, machines, stories. We are obsessed with leaving the universe a little bit better than we found it. On the 25th day, an incident occurred that changed everything. A systems failure in one of the observation pods caused a small explosion. 2 aliens were trapped inside with rapidly dropping oxygen levels. The council observers expected the humans to let them die. After all, these were the beings who had condemned humanity. These were the jailers who had offered only imprisonment. But that is not what happened. Lieutenant Amy Grant was first to respond. She ran toward the damaged section without hesitation, pulling on an emergency suit as she moved. 3 other crew members followed close behind. They worked for 20 minutes in dangerous conditions, cutting through twisted metal and rewiring damaged systems. When they finally pulled the injured observers free, Amy collapsed from exhaustion. Her suit had been damaged during the rescue. She had been breathing toxic fumes for the last 5 minutes of the operation. Medical officer Patricia Lane rushed her to sickbay while the rest of the crew worked to stabilize the 2 aliens. The council observers watched all of this with something approaching shock. Keelex approached Captain Cruz after the crisis had passed. Your crew member risked her life to save beings who have condemned your species. Why would she do this? Daniel looked tired. He had not slept in 30 hours. But he took the time to answer honestly. Because they needed help. That is all that matters. But they are your enemies. They are not our enemies. They are beings who do not understand us yet. That does not make them enemies. It makes them strangers. And when strangers need help, humans help them. It is what we do, even when there is no benefit to helping. Especially then. Daniel sat down heavily in his command chair. Look, we know what the council thinks of us. We have read our own history. We know about the wars and the genocides and all the terrible things we have done, but we also know about the firefighters who run into burning buildings. We know about the doctors who treat patients for free. We know about the strangers who jump into rivers to save people they have never met. He looked up at Keelex with exhausted eyes. We are not monsters. We never were. We are just people who make terrible mistakes and then spend the rest of our lives trying to fix them. That is not weakness. That is strength. The strongest thing in the universe is not a species that never falls. It is a species that falls again and again and keeps getting back up. The observer was silent for a long time. When Keelex finally spoke, the mechanical voice sounded different, softer. I must report this to the council. Daniel nodded. I know. They will not believe me. Then show them. Show them everything you have seen. Show them Rosa's soup and Tom's engines and Amy's courage. Show them who we really are. Keelex made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been doubt. Then the observer turned and left the bridge. 2 days remained before the council's deadline. 2 days to convince an entire galaxy that humanity deserved a chance. Lieutenant Amy Grant recovered fully. When she woke up in sickbay, her first words were to ask if the aliens were okay. They were, and that small fact changed more minds than any speech could have. The council chamber was more crowded than it had ever been. Representatives from over 300 species filled the seats that rose up toward the distant ceiling. Ships from across the galaxy had arrived to witness the judgment of humanity. This was the most significant decision the council had made in 1,000 years. And everyone wanted to see how it would end. Captain Daniel Cruz stood on the central platform with Catherine Bell, Lisa Porter, and a small group of human representatives. They had done everything they could. They had opened their lives to scrutiny. They had answered every question honestly. They had shown the council who humans really were. Without hiding the darkness or exaggerating the light, now all they could do was wait. Ambassador. Vichthel S form was brighter than usual. The being of light and geometry seemed to pulse with energy as it addressed the chamber. We have examined the evidence, Vichel began. We have studied human history, culture, biology, and psychology. We have sent observers to live among them. We have analyzed every piece of information available to us. And we have reached a conclusion. Daniel felt Catherine grab his hand. He squeezed back. The human species is dangerous. This remains true. Their capacity for violence exceeds any species we have encountered. Their technological advancement continues at a rate that defies our predictions. Left unchecked, they could destabilize the entire galactic order within 100 years. The chamber erupted in murmurs. Daniel felt his heart sink. After everything they had done, nothing had changed. The council had made up their minds before they even started. But then Vikthal said something unexpected, but single word silenced the chamber completely. But we have also discovered something we did not expect. Something that has forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew. About the evaluation of intelligent species, Daniel held his breath. Humans are aware of their own darkness. Thal paused to let those words settle. They know what they are capable of. They study their worst moments, not to glorify them, but to prevent them from happening again. They teach their children about their historical horrors, so those children will not repeat them. They remember their monsters by name. The Valkyrie representative spoke up. Most species destroy evidence of their shameful past. Humans build monuments to theirs. We observed their Second World War, Vikthal continued. We saw the death camps and the nuclear weapons. We were certain that was the end of their species. No civilization could survive such self-inflicted horror. But then we watched them create laws to prevent it from happening again. We watched them establish courts to punish those responsible. We watched them tell their children the truth about what had happened, no matter how painful that truth was. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the floating gas beings had stopped their constant movement. We watched them fail, Vikthal said, again and again. We watched them make the same mistakes their ancestors had made. We watched them hurt each other in familiar ways. But we also watched them keep trying. Every generation attempting to be better than the last. Every era moving slightly closer to the ideals they had set for themselves. Observer Kelex was given permission to speak. The mechanical being floated to the center of the chamber and addressed the council directly. I lived among the humans for 15 days. I watched them eat and sleep and work and laugh. I watched one of them risk her life to save 2 of our observers who had been trapped in a damaged pod. When I asked her why she had done this, she seemed confused by the question. She said they needed help. That was all the reason she required. They're not peaceful, Kelex continued. I will not claim that they are. They argue with each other constantly. They disagree about almost everything. They carry the weight of their violent history in ways that are visible to anyone who looks closely. But they are trying to be peaceful. They are trying every single day, and the trying may matter more than the succeeding. The Drexian representative, the being of living stone, made a sound like an earthquake. My species has not faced true adversity in 10,000 years. We have grown comfortable in our safety. We have forgotten what it means to struggle. When I look at humans, I see a species that has been tested by fire again and again and emerged stronger each time. They have something we have lost, something we need. What is that? Vikthal asked. Hope, the Drexian replied. Real hope. Not the quiet confidence of a species that has never been threatened, but the fierce, desperate, unbreakable hope of a species that has stared into the abyss and refused to fall in. The vote took 7 hours. Species that had never agreed on anything argued passionately about humanity's fate. Alliances that had lasted for millennia were strained by disagreements. Several representatives changed their votes multiple times as new arguments were presented. When it was finally over, Ambassador Vikthal announced the result. The Council has decided to extend provisional membership to humanity, not the restricted membership originally proposed. Full provisional membership, with the expectation of review in 100 years. Daniel felt his knees go weak. Catherine made a sound that was half sob and half laugh. Lisa Porter was crying openly. They had done it. They had actually done it. Air conditions vehicle continued. You will share your history freely with any species that wishes to study it. You will participate in council peacekeeping operations, contributing your unique perspective on conflict. And you will accept observers not to monitor your compliance, but to learn from your experience. Catherine stepped forward. Her voice trembled but did not break. Learn from us? What could we possibly teach you? It was the Drexian who answered. How to survive ourselves. How to face extinction and still create art. How to know your own capacity for evil and still raise children. How to do all of this without becoming bitter or cruel. We want to understand your hope, added the Valkyrie representative. We want to know how you keep believing that tomorrow can be better than today, even when all evidence suggests otherwise. Captain Cruz found his voice at last. We do not always succeed at those things. We know, said Vikthal. We have read your literature. Your people have a saying. The only way out is through. We have spent 1,000,000 years trying to go around our problems. Perhaps it is time we learned to go through them. The ceremony that followed was unlike any the council had performed. Humans were welcomed not as a dangerous species to be contained, but as teachers who had lessons to share. Not as monsters, but as survivors who had earned their place in the stars. As the horizon's edge prepared to return to Earth, Lisa Porter found Daniel on the observation deck. He was staring at the station that had almost become humanity's prison. They are still afraid of us, she said quietly. They should be, Daniel replied. We are afraid of us too. That is what makes us careful. Do you think we can live up to their expectations? Daniel was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the stars burned with ancient light. Somewhere among the millions of species were watching to see what humanity would do next. I think we will fail, he finally said. A lot I think we will disappoint them and ourselves and everyone watching. But I also think we will keep trying. That is what we do. That is what we have always done. He turned to face her, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. We are human. We are not good at being perfect, but we are really good at getting back up. The horizon's edge jumped to faster than light speed, carrying the news that would change humanity forever. Behind them, the galaxy watched and wondered if they had made the right choice. They would not know for certain. But then again, neither did the humans, and maybe that was the point.